Anybody comes.
I'd like to call to order the East Dundee Planning and Zoning Commission and Historic Commission meeting of Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 to order. Roll call.
Scarpelli,
Here.
Holloman,
Here.
Meyer, Apke, Stenick,
Here.
Bernstein,
Here.
Schock,
Here.
Musket, and no Brewer.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is I need a motion appointing me, Frank Scarpelli, as the acting chairman for tonight's meeting. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Sure, I'll make it.
Sounds like a couple different it sounds like Steve.
That's right, we all want you, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, Sue, you did the motion and Steve
Yeah.
Stenick second? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
If there's no further discussion, roll call.
Do I call Scarpelli to vote on that? I think so.
Yeah.
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Stenick,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes.
and Schock.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I would need a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning and Historic Commission meeting minutes of Thursday, November 5th, 2020, unless anyone has any comments.
I'd like to make a motion. We approve the meeting minutes from November 5th.
And I'll second it.
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Stenick,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes.
and Schock.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, is there anybody on the meeting tonight that is not here on a meeting, on an agenda item for tonight's meeting that would like to make a comment in the public comments section? Hearing none, no public comment. That brings us to the Historic Commission. Item number 1, certificate of appropriateness for signage, 5 Points Jiu-Jitsu, 104 North River Street. Is there someone here on behalf of 5 Points Jiu-Jitsu?
That would be me.
Okay. Do you have any presentation for us, or in our packet we had the photos of your current banners that are hanging inside your window?
Correct. That's basically it. I was not aware that I needed permission, but apparently I do. So they're temporary, just as I'm still working through getting signage and the actual building itself. COVID is not making it easy on me, period. So there are going to be temporary. They're not going to say, I'm hoping within a few months I should be able to get a complete window signage and actual building signage. But yeah, that's basically what I need, I guess, approval on, is keeping those signs under if possible.
Okay, and do you have any samples of or any thoughts of what type of permanent signage you're going to be looking for?
I do. I have a quote. I don't have it with me though. I wasn't ready to actually get permission on that because I don't have a specific date for it. I'm assuming I would have to submit an application for that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but we're just approving the temporary.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the temporary. For the one I'm actually ready and I actually have a quote and proper paperwork for it. I was going to set up a meeting for that.
And Brad, has Chris gone through with Ms. Gonzalez the kind of the rules of the Historic Commission?
I think, yeah, I believe Chris is the one that brought it to attention that you needed to get the permit and come through this process. So correct.
Yeah, yeah, Chris, I believe is the one who emailed me. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and did he show you any I mean, it's not his job to show you all the available fonts, but being in a historic district, we're looking to keep signage within the era of the historic district. And I don't know that the font in your banner meets it now. And I'm just one person speaking. The entire commission, I'm going to open the floor up to them. But just for your knowledge,
Okay.
when you go to get the permanent sign, you'll want to make sure that it falls into a font that's acceptable to the commission. I'll now open it up to the commissioners if they have any comments. I don't believe that font is a historic font, but that's just my personal feeling.
Well, I don't think it is either. However, if this were 1850 or 1880 and this was a business that was coming into town, that particular font is indicative of their type of business. So
I
I
agree.
really don't have so much of a problem with that font.
How long are we going to give them permission to keep the window signs? Is this a certain number of months or?
Well, I agree we should put a time limit on it, but I think we have to give her an opportunity to get her budget in order so that she can afford to change them.
Oh, I do too, but
Yeah,
it can't be indefinite.
no. And
Well,
under the circumstances
Okay with that.
with COVID and everything, I'd even be a little generous with that.
Brad, does staff have any recommendations?
We do not. I mean, we'll leave it up to the commission to
Okay.
recommend. I know the petitioner did mention, she's hoping within a few months, but obviously with COVID in the situation,
Right.
I'm sure it's, uncertain, but I think she has intentions to, switch it out to more permanent signage here in the near future.
So Maria, will you, when you make up your mind as to what type of permanent signage, you're going to have to apply and come back before this
Right.
this board. As far as an outside time frame, how long do you think you need to move towards getting the permanent signage?
I would say I need like 2 months. That's been my goal to kind of get it all put together.
Okay, and so do any of the other commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. I think 2 months is a little bit
Sure.
soon. Actually, it's a bad time of the year, bad, stuff going on.
Okay.
People afraid to get together. They might be afraid to, all go in the building together. I don't know what kind of COVID protocol she's going to have, but I think 2 months is not enough.
I think 6 months is more realistic.
I agree. I think that sounds real good.
Yeah, I was even going to say by July 31st, we, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm a commissioner with our local park district, and I know a lot of the limitations, and they're talking about possibly shutting down all types of activity in that. So you may actually have to be closed if the state does that, and while you're closed, you may not want to spend the money. So yeah, I'd say either 6 months or by July 31st with Sue or Gwen.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Obviously,
Okay.
gives me more time period, and yeah, COVID has not made anything easy. I'm
No.
actually in quarantine myself right now because I've been out. I won't be out of quarantine for another few days, but
Okay.
same thing. It's not make it easy.
Okay, then from what I'm hearing from the commission is we would grant the certificate of appropriateness for the temporary signage for a period of 6 months, starting January 1st. So that would take them through the end of June, through June 30th, 2021 on the temporary signage, and hopefully sometime between now and then, Ms. Gonzalez will see you with your permanent signage. Would somebody like to make a motion to that fact?
I'll make a motion, I'll make a motion on that. I'd like to add that if at that time, that she has an opportunity to ask for more time. Any
Okay.
thoughts on that?
Aye.
No? Okay,
Would anyone like to second Sue's motion?
No, I think 6 months she should be able to get her signage together.
yeah, but at 6 months, if she doesn't, then we're going to say you're out of luck, or we're gonna give her
No,
an
she should come back and ask for.
opportunity. That's what I mean. We're not locking her out at 6 months.
Yeah,
If she
I
needs
would
to
think
come back
that-
for more
okay,
time,
I would-
it's available.
Yeah, Gwen, just to make it clear, what Sue's saying is we're giving her 6 months, but if she needs more time, the door is open for her to come and apply for more time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Frank. Okay,
That's
so moved.
not a problem. Zoom calls can be confusing, so.
All right, I said,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other
I'll
further
second
comments?
that.
Hearing no further comments, Kathleen, roll call? You're muted, Kathleen.
Sorry, Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes,
did Meyer join? Meyer? Stenick,
Yes.
Bernstein,
yes,
Schock,
No.
Musket? Did she join? No, okay. We have 4 yeses.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is new business public hearing, property identification number 03-25-126-006, to consider a request for a variance from section 157.127B of the zoning chapter of East Dundee Village Code requiring loading berths.
I'll
Brad,
make a motion, we open the hearing.
second,
there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Kathleen, roll call?
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes,
Stenick,
Yes.
Bernstein,
yes,
and Schock.
Yes.
Okay, Brad or Joe, one of you want to lead off?
Yeah, so we received a variance request from Joe Palumbo with the building at 250 Patricia Lane. The variance request is for a loading berth. There is currently one at that building. So this building is already built in. This was identified by staff. This was not identified during the initial building permit approval process. So the building is built. There's one loading berth with this building, but the village code requires there be 2 due to the size of the building. So that's why a variance is needed here. I think as I stated in the memo, it is our opinion of the village with this code being, we feel it's kind of antiquated, this requirement in the code. We feel that the petitioner or whoever's building the building has a better understanding or for their need for loading berths for their facility and what they need to adequately serve the facility. So from our opinion, staff's opinion, we have no problem with this variance at all.
Okay,
I don't know if Joe has anything else additional to add on. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with Brad, and also you have to keep in mind that this building has overhead doors that will allow for internal unloading. So it's just the external loading dock is our concern because there's only one, but all the other units have driving doors that essentially do the same thing internally.
Okay, any of the commissioners have any questions?
No,
I have one question, and I actually brought it up with Brad before the meeting. Joe, is, I guess, somebody else going to build a building similar to this? If we grant the variance to Joe Palumbo, are we setting any type of precedent for somebody else who wants to build a similar building with only one loading berth? In that, I guess the thing I'm wondering is, and I don't necessarily want to delay this, although the building's already built. I don't know if due to this variance, we're holding up anybody's occupancy permit. I wouldn't think so. Would we be safer if the village was looking to get the variance because it's something we missed in the plan approval process? I guess just your thoughts on the property owner getting the variance, possibly setting precedents.
I wouldn't think there's, because each variance request has to be wholly considered on its own. The variance was always needed. We had it in our review letter. It's just that the owner elected to move forward with the possibility of not obtaining a variance, and we have to somehow meet that need if he didn't obtain the variance.
Okay, so when Palumbo built the building, they knew they needed two, but only built one?
That's correct.
Okay.
Is it hard to add one if you needed it for a different occupant?
You're on mute, Joe.
There certainly would need to, sorry about that, there certainly would need to be some alterations to the building, unless the village would consider internal unloading as acceptable.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
So let me get this straight. He knew he needed two, only he built one, and then he comes for a variance after he built it? How wrong is this?
Well, the same variance was granted for pretty much his identical building. But
it's two different permits, right?
It is. But,
okay. You can't be building something and change your mind when you're all done. That's not how this works. I mean, how many people in the past have we said, you know what, tear it down, try it again? I've been on the board too long now. I know we have told people, no, sorry, sucks to be you, start over. So no, he shouldn't be. This is wrong in so many ways.
How did the village not catch it when the building was being built?
The village,
yeah, somebody answer that one. I want to hear this one.
The village did catch it. The owner is aware of the variance request, and he elected to move forward because of timing with winter coming and getting his precast panel.
Whoa. What's winter got to do with anything? This is wrong. This is absolutely positively what the village has done is wrong. He needs to correct this. I'm sorry. This is way out of line. And if you guys knew about it, you're at fault.
I guess that's why we're here.
Yeah.
No, Palumbo needs to correct the situation. No, there's no getting around this. You guys screwed up. Now he needs to fix it. Absolutely. This is wrong on so many different levels.
So Joe, was the error caught after the building permit was issued, or the building permit was issued knowing that?
No, Frank, they just got done telling you they knew about it beforehand.
Right, it was in our initial review letter.
It was.
So now we're going to build it. Now we're going to come back and ask for a variance. No, that's not how this works, people.
So it was in the initial review letter. It was not addressed, but there was an error made in issuing the building permit the way the building.
Error, Frank? Is that what you're going to call it? You're going to call it an error? If we approve this, this is bullshit.
Howard, I don't know what else you would call it. I mean, it was an error. So somebody made it.
No, Frank, that's not an error. They knew about it ahead of time. That's not an error.
Well, Joe Palumbo got a building permit, Howard. I mean, somebody made an error. I'm not saying right or wrong.
It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. Okay. So the next person that comes in and says, "Hey, I put up an 8-foot fence." Well, you know what? Don't make them take it down, because you know what? Somebody approved it, or it doesn't matter. We apparently we have laws for no reason. If somebody wants to put up a 15-foot fence in their backyard, I guess they're welcome to it, because nobody's going to stop them. Just like this right now, nobody's stopping them.
Although
I mean,
Howard, he does have an identical building that did get a variance.
So 2 wrongs make a right. Is that what you're saying now, Frank?
Hold on, Howard. You may have even voted yes on that variance. What I'm saying is there seems to be an error made by staff, and then there's also an error made by Joe, in that Joe went and built a building that he knew was not compliant, but he probably built it on the basis that likely we approved, because his other building there was definitely built, I know, while I was on this commission, and I know you were on this commission. So we did approve at some point in time a single berth.
I guess it's whatever Frank wants.
Howard, I'm not saying I'm even voting in favor of this. I'm just letting you know the facts.
Well, the fact is he's made a mistake and needs to be corrected. That's the fact.
Okay, and if he goes to build another building, but it applies for the variance before he gets the permit, are you going to approve that, or?
I don't know. If my crystal ball broke last week, okay. I guess I'll have to wait to get a new one from eBay.
Am I to understand that this building is already built and functional?
Yes.
No, just the shell is up right now.
Pardon?
Just the shell is up, the outside walls.
Okay. Well, if his business does not need a second dock, why can't we give him the variance but not change anything in our requirements for the next one that comes along?
Joe, the building that received the variance, is that the building that has the Uniroyal tire in it?
Yes, it is.
Let's just pile this under Joe's stoplight while we're at it.
Steve, do you have any questions or comments? Howard, anything else to add?
Is it really going to matter, Frank?
I don't know, Howard. We're in the public hearing. We have to close the public hearing, and then we can discuss the variance.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. This is Steve. I just think it sets a bad precedent that something is built disregarding our zoning.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
after the fact. they
Thank you,
come to
Steve.
apologize.
Howard, let him finish.
Yeah. So, you know, even if it was done last time, now this is the second time. So I think it should end with this.
Yeah, I should end with the last one.
How
Correct.
complicated is it to add a dock? I
would
mean,
think
is that a day's work or a week's work or?
What's the difference?
so it's pretty complicated.
Why should he be forced to add a dock when he has no need of it?
That's what our ordinance says.
No, that's why we're doing a variance. I don't think it really matters whether before the fact or after the fact. If he doesn't need it,
If that's the case, then why do we have an ordinance? Why don't we just have a free for all? Do what you build what you want.
well, that's kind of, I know what you're saying, Howard, I really do. But you know, things are not written in stone and permanent forever. I mean, you've got to give a little and take a little. If he doesn't
Fine.
need it,
Come
build
forward
it.
ahead of time, not after the freaking thing is built and said, "Oh, hey, by the way, this is what I need."
I don't know if it came in that way.
Joe, would obviously a dock that the truck backs into and is at the height of the truck would work, but one of the platforms that raises up and then lowers, if they were to install that on the grounds, would that suffice as a second loading berth?
I'd have to look at the definition in the code and see if that would work out.
I don't know, I think the purpose of the Planning and Zoning Commission is to be able to grant a variance when it's needed.
Yeah, Sue, I
Fact.
I'm a little disturbed that this got this far with the village missing that.
Yeah.
That makes
me
you
too.
worry.
I'm not so sure the village missed it. I haven't seen the permit, but there may have been a contingency put on that permit. stating
By
that
whom?
the building-
Yeah, I would just say that in the future, you know, if someone builds a fence that's not according to code, and after it's built, they ask for a variance, that would be the same thing as what's happening here.
correct.
No,
Thank you
fence
very-
is a
in the
lot cheaper
future-
than a loading dock.
But in the future, anything that would be built, people might just build it. And then after the fact, come to the board and say, hey, I got a lot of expense in this. And it's already built.
Oh,
That's happened many times, Steve, in this
Yeah,
village,
so
unfortunately.
I just think it sets a bad precedence for the future.
Yeah. Okay, do I hear a motion to close is Joe Palumbo on the meeting? That there's a Jeff Newing, I don't know who that is.
I work with Joe.
Do you have any comments that you want to make on the project or to this application?
No, I've been listening and understand the complaints or argument that is given. I believe our understanding was that this variance, which would be identical to the variance that we got 2 years ago for the other building, its square footage is just over the limitations in the ordinance. So that is why we anticipated this to not be a big concern.
Jeff, how big is the building?
It's like 45,000 square feet.
Okay, and is it 45,000 all for, will it be one occupied by one tenant or will it
No.
be a multi-tenant building?
It's a multi-tenant building with a common area loading berth, similar, identical to the other building that already exists across the street.
Okay, and Jeff, do you have the building? I mean, I realize tenants can change as time marches on. Do you have any tenants currently for this new building?
We have one tenant ready to sign about a third of the space for a lease. He's requested that actually just yesterday, and we've had a lot of interest. And so we're eager on hopefully finishing it as quickly as possible in the springtime. Based on our history with the previous building, that we completely filled the building we built 2 years ago prior to even finishing the construction. So things are looking positive.
And Jeff, of your building that's already occupied, how big is that building?
That is about the same size, 45,000 square feet.
And of your tenants there, do they all use the loading berth, or are any of the tenants not using a truck dock?
I would probably say that the loading dock gets used once or twice a week by all 8 tenants, meaning it does not get used that often. We're catering to truck repair businesses and truck logistics companies, and their need for a common area loading dock is to be able to unload something from the back of a semi, and they're not needing the loading dock that frequently. So yeah, I would say it's used probably 2 to 3 times a week.
If you were asked to put another loading dock in, does it go right next to the one you have, or do you have to open up a different area of the building to build this?
It would require some significant redesign of the land area around the building, as well as where it would go on the building itself, because with the depth of the building, it would not satisfy 2 loading berths on the end of the building that it is designed in right now. So it would be difficult to redesign, yes.
Jeff, do all 8 in your other building, do all 8 units have some adjacent wall to the common loading berth, or does it unload into the common area and then they've got to go through an overhead door out into the parking lot and around to their place of business?
That's exactly how it operates. It is at one end of the building and it is a common area, and they enter and exit through a ground level overhead door with their own forklift and transport to their own facility.
So theoretically, you guys could, off in one area of the parking lot, providing the storm sewer is deep enough, you could build a ramp down and have almost an external loading dock per se.
Yeah, I mean, an external loading area could be designed. It would just defeat some of the other designed areas of the parking lot.
Sure.
And the building. And as far as the building is concerned, adding any additional loading berths attached to the building would struggle some structural issues that would have to be redesigned.
So Jeff, you just admitted just a few minutes ago, you knew this was going to be an issue. So now you come to the village knowing months ago that this was going to be an issue.
Well, we're not, unfortunately, we weren't coming to the village right now. We've tried to get through this application process for a variance several months ago, and it's taken several months to get to this point. Yes, we did order our precast in, I believe, January, February of this year, and then COVID happened, and we tried to put the whole building on hold, and we were unable to. So that is why we pushed forward to get the building up and then wait. So that's why that timeline existed the way it did.
So let's go ahead and push everything, get the building up. Now we'll come to the village and ask for a variance. Let's not do it back in January. We already had the plans laid out. Let's wait until December.
Well, that's not my intention. Again, I believe our feeling on this side of the fence was that this would not be an issue because it was not an issue with the building across the street.
I'm not sure what A has to do with B, but whatever makes you sleep at night.
Just because the building is almost identical. That was our reasoning. So, but I fully understand the argument against, so I can't argue that.
Well, it's no for me, but whatever.
Okay, any other comments from any of the commissioners or the applicant? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved.
Howard already moved. Sue, do you
okay,
want a second?
Yeah,
Okay.
second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Kathleen?
Kelly,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Stenick,
No.
You don't want to close the meeting?
The public
Oh,
hearing.
the meeting? Yeah,
The
close the
yeah,
public.
hearing.
Correct. Yes,
Burns.
close.
Okay, Bernstein
Yes.
and Schock.
Yes.
Okay, Kathleen, do we have any public comment or did any written comments?
No, not
Okay.
that I know of, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so next I would either entertain a motion to approve the variance or entertain a motion to deny the variance.
Got,
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to deny this applicant.
I'll second that.
Comments?
yeah, I think the circumstances is more of a tempest in a teapot. If he does not need to have the loading dock, unless he's got trucks parked in the parking lot and lined up on the highway trying to get there to unload, I don't think there's any reason to force him into putting a second loading dock in, regardless of whether it was, the application was done on time or late or whatever.
I think we say yes or no on this.
Brad,
You asked for
if,
comments.
Brad, if the motion fails, will the village put a stop work permit on the building, or will they allow the building to finish and then not issue certificates of occupancy?
I don't, Joe, do you have any comment on that one? Chris, but I mean, that would require them to put in that second loading dock if it does fail here. So I don't know what the petitioner will do. Joe, do you have any thought on that?
Well, I would think the village board is going to hear this.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, this is just a recommendation to the board.
as far as I know, they're not working on the site.
Okay. Okay, yeah, Howard and Steve, I agree with you. However, I've seen this happen time and time again in the village. Right down the street with that, with the sign at the Shell station. That got approval 3-4 years after the building was built.
So let's just keep making wrong for the village, but don't worry about it. We'll just fix. I mean, Frank, what's on your mind here?
What's on my mind, Howard, is that we have somebody building something in our village, and they're putting tenants into the building, and they're hardly using the dock they have. It's really not.
So what we're doing is hush. So basically, bottom line, we're doing some hush money here. Don't worry about it. you're gonna bring us tax dollars, we're gonna overlook this. Oh, that's great, Frank. What else you got?
But Howard, that, you know, what, if they had not built a building already that only had one and we granted that, and again, my guess is you voted yes. I know I voted yes. Many of us probably voted yes. I'll bet it was a unanimous yes out of this board. And 2 years ago, that when that building got built, this board has not changed in 4 or 5 years. So we all voted yes for a variance in a similar building. So.
I guess money talks, Frank.
Yeah,
Money talks.
okay. But there is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call?
Scarpelli,
No.
Holloman,
No,
Stenick,
No.
Really, Frank?
What are we doing here?
this is a
We're-
motion
we're-
to deny.
Oh, no,
Yep.
I seconded to deny the permit. So that's
So yes, you're saying.
yes, to deny the permit.
let's start over on that, can we?
Okay. The motion made by Howard was to deny the recommendation.
Right, and then it was seconded by Steve Stenick. So if you want to deny it, you need to vote yes. If you don't want to deny it, you can vote no. And voting no does not pass it. It only, if that ends up victorious, it would kill the denial. So you want to start over with the roll call, Kathleen?
Scarpelli,
No.
Holloman,
When you,
This is worded badly.
yes, it is. You're saying, you
What
said
one?
2 different things here.
No.
We voting yes to deny or no to deny?
It's a yes to deny or no. If you vote no to deny, so just hypothetically, if you vote no, I vote no, Gwen votes no, Steve and Howard vote yes, okay?
To deny it.
To deny it. The
got it.
denial fails, but
Got
then somebody would have to make a motion to approve it.
I got it. Okay, mine is no.
Okay,
Sorry.
Stenick,
My,
Stenick is yes.
Bernstein,
no.
Schock.
Yes.
okay, so the motion to deny it failed. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve it?
I make a motion, we approve the request for a variance from section 157.12B of the zoning chapter of the East Dundee Village Board requiring loading berths.
Second.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would like to say in the future that anything that's done before it comes to the board, that's really an issue, because I see this as something that will continue, and the applicants just figure, hey, it's going to get passed anyway, let's roll with it.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve.
If there's some wording we could put in that future variances are not assumed to be granted, regardless of any similarities to previous buildings.
Yep, I completely agree.
I still think there ought to be a reprimand somewhere in the village when that slips by like that.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Okay, any further comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Stenick,
No.
Bernstein,
Yes.
and Schock.
No.
Okay. The motion carries 3 votes to 2, and it now goes to the village board for approval. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the findings of fact?
Make a motion to approve findings of fact to recommend approval of a request on a variance from section 157-127B.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes,
Stenick,
Yes,
Bernstein,
yes.
and Schock.
No.
Okay, motion carries 4 to 1. Is there anything else to come before the commission tonight? Kathleen?
No, unless
No.
Brad has anything?
No.
Anything from any of the commissioners?
Yeah, tonight was a joke.
yes, I've got a comment on the signs in front of property on Barrington Avenue that don't belong there. They're advertising for a carpenter or a piano player or something like that. That house always has something in front of it, and I think it's not something I would want to look at every time I go up and down the hill.
Oh, but it's been there for years, so don't worry about it. I mean, it's been, nobody said a word till now, so why bother? So I don't see a problem with it.
Thank you, Howard.
We can, I'll relay that to Chris and we can have him take a look at that.
Thank you.
I actually, I mean, I agree with you, Sue and Howard, but I think the signs are within the legal limit for what they're advertising for.
Then we got to change that.
Oh, just we'll add it to the birthing deck.
Oh, Howard.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I speak up out of turn? Am I not agreeing with somebody tonight? Now everybody's on that pissy match?
Behave yourself.
Howard, we're all entitled to our own comments and our own opinions. I would say the meeting is over. If nobody else has anything constructive to say at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion in a second. Roll call?
Scarpelli,
Yes.
Holloman,
Yes.
Stenick,
Yes.
Bernstein,
Yes.
and Schock.
Whatever Frank wants.
Merry Christmas, Howard.
From now on, Howard, you can't talk unless your picture shows. Missed it.
He's
hung up
gone
on
already.
me.
He hung up.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone have a good Christmas.
Happy
You too.
holidays.
All right.
Happy holiday.
Obviously, there is no Christmas party this year, correct?
Stay safe.